Well, thank you everyone for joining us today for a demo of REGIS, Regent College's homegrown student system. Regent College is a postgraduate theological college located in Vancouver, Canada. And my name is Juan Hao, and I'm the IT director at Regent. My co-presenter today is Cam Tucker, our software developer based in Winnipeg. Hi Cam, how's the weather in Winnipeg today?
Always sunny. It's been very mild so far this winter, so I can't complain.
Oh, that's great. Does that mean that you won't be doing as much programming?
I really like programming, so nice weather isn't that enticing.
Right. Good stuff. So after the financial crisis of 2008, my VP of Finance sat me down and said, Juan, from now onwards, there will be no increase to the IT budget. And thus began the annual search for cost savings. Year after year, this or that line item was cut, but the overall IT budget remained flat. Why? Because there was one line item that was increasing exponentially year after year. It was the annual maintenance of our student system. If nothing was done, in a few years' time, that one line item alone would take up 100% of the entire IT budget. So 2 years ago, we decided we had enough skills and experience to develop a homegrown student system. Since we were building from scratch, we took the opportunity to build for the future. We wanted a system that was web-based. We designed a system that enabled our students to register on their smartphones, that staff could use on their tablets, and for faculty to enter grades on their iPads. At the same time, we did not want to reinvent the wheel. So we designed a data service layer that enabled us to integrate with other best-of-breed solutions. We chose Microsoft Dynamics for finance and Sugar CRM for admissions. In order to maximize value early on, we divided the project into two phases. Phase 1 disabled the enemy, that is to terminate the contract and realize the cost savings. Then Phase 2 occupied the land, which is to build secondary modules. Before I turn the mic over to Cam, here's just a few housekeeping items. For the next 15 minutes, Cam will demonstrate the user experience from the point of view of the student, staff, and faculty. Then we will have about 10 minutes for questions. Please email your questions to wphao@regent-college.edu, and I will pose the most frequent questions on air. Now, over to you, Cam.
Thanks, Juan. So let's start with what the students see, because that's actually where we started our design. So on the left here, we have a short summary of the student's data, like the name, birth date, address, etc. This left sidebar persists through most of the site. And on the top, we have our menu. So anyway, as I was saying, there's that left sidebar. There's the menu bar on the top and the submenus. And this is just HTML and CSS. So this is the desktop view. This is kind of what you would see if you were landscape on a tablet. And this is portrait on a tablet. And then this is kind of the smartphone range down here. So you can see the menu changes here. And then when we get into registration, I'll show you how the content dynamically changes depending on what device you're on. So let's do the number one thing that students come here for, which is registration. Here on the registration landing page, on the right sidebar, you can see that we've listed some important dates. In the middle, we've separated out our on-campus registration from distance ed because we felt they were distinct enough to have separate workflows. And then below this, we're showing the student their most recent registrations grouped by term. So let's add an on-campus course. So I click the plus sign, and I click on Register Add on Campus Course. Now I've been stopped actually because the system, because I didn't check these two boxes. The first says that I need to verify that my bio and address information is correct. And the second says that I need to read and agree to the student contract. Both are very important things for the student to do each term. So let's say I look over at the left sidebar here and discover that my address is indeed incorrect. So I want to go and update it. So I'll click there. And I'm taking out of this registration menu into the user account menu. And I've got the tools to make changes to most of my address and bio information. So let's say I want to change my street address here. Now, because we're living on the web, it's very easy to embed another web service provided by, well, just about anybody, but in this case it's Google. And it helps me verify my address and make sure I've got the postal code correct. And yeah, it looks pretty good. So I can click Save up there. And then it'll show up saved when it's done. And I can happily head back to register for my course. You can see my changes reflected there on the left. So let's pretend that I read the student contract. Hopefully all the students actually go and read it. Now let's pick a course. So as I hover over, I see different information on the course, including a picture of the instructor, the day and the time. And I can also filter the courses fairly easily. I might be looking for a particular concentration, or I might know the course title. So, now, if I was on a mobile device, I just want to show you how this sizes. So when I'm on the tablet, that sidebar on the left actually moves down to the bottom. And as I get into the mobile phone range, I chop out some of the columns in the table so that I can still see what I need to in order to select the course. So I've always wanted to take a course on Genesis. I know it's being offered this term, so I've filtered for it, and I click on the course. And here I'm going to get the course description, and I'm going to get the cost of the course on the left, and the options. So do I want to register for credit or audit? Well, let's go for audit. So I've selected Bible 610 for 3 audit hours. And this is all I want at the moment, so I'm going to proceed to the next step. Here I'm presented with the cost of registering for the course, and happily I have a 50% graduate audit benefit. REGIS knows about that because it keeps track of the degrees awarded. And I've got some options to consider. Our student fees, which include a health plan and bus pass, are available to students who are registering for at least 3 audit hours. On the right sidebar, you'll notice that the dates have reappeared, and we've also got a link to our main website. So we're living on the web here, so it's no big deal just to link over to the main website so people can look up maybe about the UPass. So I can click on that. And then I can see a breakdown of all the fees, and I can click there if I wanted more details about the UPass.
And the UPass is a university pass for transit.
Yep. Very handy to have. So let's say yes, I want to pay for the student fees. And we've also got some additional benefits here I can apply for, but I'm just going to do the student fees. So here again, I see roughly the same info. I see a registration fee, and I have the option to give consent to be included on the mailing list. But Right now, I'm just going to go ahead and register. And now we're done. And I've been given some follow-up tasks. I can check my email to get a record of my registration. I can see my term invoices, my balance owing. I can pay online. And if it was a special course, I might have some additional forms to fill out. So before we leave the student portal, I just want to show you the student directory. Here, students share their picture and bio information, address, and that sort of thing to the directory, which other students and staff can browse. And they can always choose which information they would like to release. Juan, is it okay if I show your entry?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. So we search by typing in a name. So let's say I meet Juan at orientation, and I want to follow up with him to have coffee. But I only know his first name. I remember what he looks like. So I type in Juan, and I can see, oh yeah, that's Juan. And then I got his information, and I'm good to go. So if you have any questions about the student side, or you'd like to see a demo of any of these other things, you can email or text Juan. Okay, that's it for the student view.
Now, did we go through all the search options?
Good point. Well, that'll be from the staff perspective, actually.
That's great. So I just want to comment here that one of our design criteria was just to make search really easy. Because one of the difficulties we've had in the past was lots of duplicate records. So we wanted to be able to search by part of a name, by the student ID, by the phone number, and by email address. And Cam is going to demonstrate how that's done.
Yeah, often you get emails from students, and the easiest thing to do is to just cut and paste. This lets me search by email address. You might know a partial phone number. That's me again. So maybe I'll back up, and then I will show you. Maybe we want to do part of a name. So here I get all of the Tuckers. I'm this one. Or we might know student number. All right, so let's say I had submitted a paper registration form. At Regent, we still accept paper registration forms. It's a great backup system, and it only requires a pencil. There's a lot of things we could do here, but I just want to show you registration ad, which I've got open up over here. This is roughly the same thing that we saw earlier, except we can register multiple courses at once with these checkboxes here. So I want to do INDS 560. This is again the staff view, and History 612. So we're going to do both at once, which is going to show up here. Now we see, I think what you'd expect if you've used student systems before, we can change the number of audit hours. In this case, this course only available for 3, and we can change from credit to audit. And when I make that change, I'm automatically given the 50% graduate audit benefit, just like when we did it on the student side. We built quite a bit of power into this screen. I can alter the tuition by a set percentage, and you can see that it updates the amount there and the amount of the benefit, and I can also manually enter it in there. So we're living on the web, so this just takes a bit of JavaScript to wire it up, no problem. I can also see the students' recent registrations below here. In this case, it's helpful because I noticed that the system isn't prompting me to charge them the $35 registration fee, and that's because they've already registered for Genesis, which we saw earlier, and it would have been charged then. So I'm done, so I'm going to register for these sections. And now I want to check out the account report. for the student so you can see the charges. The starting view is from oldest to newest. So what we did just now is down here on the 17th. So we can see our registrations. There's the Genesis registration I just did, and then here's those 2 courses I just added from the staff side and the benefit that got applied in both cases, and then the student fees. And we can also grab a quick PDF of this if we needed to, and print it off for the student if we'd like, but actually the student has access to the same report online, so all they have to do is log in and they can get the same thing. So lastly, I want to show you how the faculty use REGIS. Now on the test system here, I have the ability to impersonate one of the faculty. And so let's do that for Bible 610.
And the reason we do that is so that we can provide support to staff and faculty when they say, oh yeah, this screen doesn't work or this function doesn't work. We can go in as though we are them and see where they're getting stuck and provide like hand-holding support.
Yeah, it's very useful to be able to see exactly what they see. So they can say, oh, I'm not seeing that button. Well, you can just log in as them and see what's going on. So if Ian were to log into REGIS, this is what he would see. Ian is the professor of that Genesis course earlier that I registered for. He can view class rosters, and he can grade by course, and he can change his password, and he can log off. That URL real quickly. We actually divide REGIS a bit if you're accessing it from outside of the physical building, and we bring down the privileges a bit. So this is what Ian would see if he was logging in from home. So let's look at the class roster. Now by default, the class rosters are set at the moment to the fall term, because that's our current term at the moment. But we registered in winter, so I'm going to go there. And then I'm going to look for Bible 610. Or I'm just going to type in Genesis here. And there's one person in there, which is great. I actually cleared out the course before we began on the test system, so I wouldn't have to show you anybody else's information there. So the faculty can grab the class roster as Excel or PDF, or they can just grab the student email addresses if they want to send out a blast to them. So let's try the PDF. So we get the basics about the course, which room it's in, start and end date, and the title. And then we get the student name and ID and the picture. And the credit hours and whether there are credit. Now I also want to show you how the faculty submit grades. Again, the default's fall because that's the term we're in. So I'm going to head over to the winter term. And the faculty are given a bit of a preamble to look over. This includes things like the deadlines to enter grades, when to use a paper form for online grading. So I'm going to click on Genesis here. And it's kind of what you'd expect. Now in this case I registered for audit, so I don't actually have to enter a grade because that's done manually for me. But if I was for a credit course, they would have a drop down here and he'd be able to select a grade and then submit. So that's the faculty side. If you have any questions about this, or you'd like to see more of what's going on for them or for the staff, you can email or text Juan. Back to you, Juan.
Well, thank you, Cam. All right, so yep, if you've got questions, send them in. I do have a few that I'll answer. One person asked how many people worked on REGIS. And the answer is 1.5, roughly. So Cam is the dedicated programmer on REGIS. I did a little bit of work on Sugar CRM and some of the secondary modules that are attached to REGIS, such as course evaluation. So we have a course evaluation module that's integrated into Regis. It's a one-click to send course evals out to students, and again, a one-click for faculty to receive the report. And if students don't complete their course evaluation, they don't get to see their grades when online. They will eventually get to see their grades on paper, but most of them want to see their grades right now. And so that's a huge incentive for them to complete the course evaluation, and that way we get upwards of 80% return rate on the evaluations. Another question was what do we use for finance? As I mentioned earlier, we use Microsoft Dynamics GP, and the way we integrate to it is via a tool, and I think Cam is the person to speak about this tool that we use to integrate with Dynamics.
Dynamics GP has an API actually that they let you write code against, and it's just XML. It's complicated, but it allows you quite a bit of power. So I was able to push in all of the invoices that Regis was recording. Yeah, fun.
It wasn't the effort to make that integration work was hard, but it has been done now. So we have this interface to Dynamics. Now, another question was regarding different rates for audits and credits and different kinds of audits. The way we approached this was, instead of building a business rules engine for different rates or different ways of billing for courses, we just built it into the code based on the way that we operate. And so if you have a different course billing rate or regime or whatever it is, and it's just a matter of tailoring that code to whatever your institution uses. And the reason was we don't want to build this great big billing engine that caters to every scenario. We just want to keep it small, light, and simple.
Maybe I could say a little bit about the technology that we used.
Yep. Yeah, go ahead.
So Regis is built using Microsoft.NET in the background, .NET MVC, and it uses a lot of plugins. The biggest one is something called Service Stack, which has been a lot of fun to use. And as Juan said, the data is actually separated from the user interface, and then user interface just talks to the data service layer with an API. So all that you saw today doesn't have a whole lot in there besides HTML and CSS, and you can turn around and write your UI in any other language, and you have this data service layer that can talk to anything, which is really great.
All right, thanks, Cam. And there are no more. Yes, there's one question coming here. And do the school's development, advancement, and alumni offices share the directory and cumulative records of contacts? Yes, they do. And we do, through our data service layer, we integrate to REGIS Edge for development and finance. So any biographical changes to either Regis or REGIS Edge are synchronized back and forth instantaneously. Maybe within a minute if there was a lag of some sort. So once again, thank you very much for joining us today. And if you're interested to know more about how you could potentially deploy Regis in your institution, please contact me. My email address is on the slide. Otherwise, a blessed Advent to you. It's another week to Christmas. And a Happy New Year. Thank you once again. Bye now.